Hello folks, welcome to the OceanState Cuisine. In today's video I'm going to be going over how I make my sausage and breading stuffing. This stuffing is just packed full of flavor. To the point that I was making a Thanksgiving dinner for the childcare staff that I worked for, and they all gobbled up my stuffing and they did not touch the other stuffing that somebody brought in already pre-made from a restaurant. So if you're looking for a very tasty stuffing, this recipe is it. Now this could be a rather long video because there is a lot of steps in making this stuffing. I use a lot of different ingredients, so let's get started with the ingredient list. So to the left, the star of the show is in the blue bowl, and that's about 2 pounds of ground sausage. And then next to that is some herb seasoned breadcrumbs that we're going to be using in this stuffing mix. If I don't have a stuffing mix like this on hand, a lot of times I just get normal bread, sliced bread, whatever bread I have, and I'll put the oven on a low temperature, say like 200. I'll put the bread on a wire rack and I'll let it sit in there with the temperature shut off and just let it dry out for a couple of hours. And then with a knife, I cut them up into cubes. Now starting on the left and the back, we have some chopped onion, and then we have some salt and pepper. We have some grated Parmesan cheese. In the coffee cup in the back, we have some melted butter. And then we have some minced garlic. We have some sliced green olives. Then we have some Old Bay seasoning, some Italian seasoning, and some black olives. There is more ingredients we're going to be adding to this recipe that we will just see in a few minutes. So now next, in a large skillet, we're going to add some butter, as we see right here, which we are then going to add some cooking oil to the butter. It's a nice blend when it comes to sauteing meats and things like that. And we're just going to wait for that butter to melt down. Next, we are going to add our chopped onion, and I used a whole onion because I love a lot of onion in my stuffing. I did end up making way too much stuffing. There's only 2 of us on Thanksgiving that actually eats it. So just use the amount appropriate to the amount of people that you're cooking for. I'd say about 1.5 cups of stuffing per serving. Now next, we need to sweat the onion with some salt. So we're going to salt these up pretty good. And then some ground black pepper. And we want to saute the onions for a couple of minutes until they kind of get translucent. Now I do have to confess earlier in the video that if you are here to see the final product, I am sorry, I don't know what happened, but I cannot find the final picture of the stuffing once it was plated up and it was fully cooked. But I do have all the footage up to that point. So please do stick around and we will definitely see all the steps right up to that final point. So now next, I did add the minced garlic also, and we're going to saute the 2 of them together right here. And now pretty soon it's time to add the meat, which is the sausage. I do like a lot of garlic, adjust it to your taste. Now what I'm going to do now is get the onion mixture and we're going to push it off to one side. This way we could saute the sausage with full contact to the skillet. Now because sausage has quite a bit of fat to it, we're not going to add more shortening to the pan. And my sausage was still a little bit frozen, but not too bad. So we're just going to add this to the pan now. And then as it cooks, it's going to break down easier, where you could separate the sausage. And I'm probably doing this on my stove, which cooks rather high. I'm probably doing all this on about medium heat. And then I'm just going to turn it up just a tad. Just a little bit below medium high. Now with this big salad fork that I have, this thing works great when it comes to breaking up ground meat. But I do like some small chunks. It's nice to bite into when you're actually eating the stuffing. So as it's cooking, we're just going to keep breaking it up just like this. Let it brown a little more, and then we'll break it up, and then rinse and repeat. And we could see that it's starting to cook a little bit more now. And it's starting to get halfway there. Now what I'm going to do now is just push the onions into the meat now and let it all blend together. And one thing about sausage is that it already comes seasoned, so you don't have to add a lot of seasonings to it. And mine is, I believe this is hot Italian sausage. Any kind of sausage is usually really good for this as long as it's ground up as we see. And I don't recommend a sweet sausage. If you like that, then hey, go for it. Now here is some more ingredients we're going to be using. We're going to be using some red wine, some onion and garlic powder, and some chicken broth. I don't use very expensive wine, as we can see right here. This one's called Grape Wagon. But it's got a nice flavor. Alright, now back to the sausage. We're going to turn up the heat now to about medium-high, and we're going to add our red wine to it. This is going to add a real nice flavor. And now we're just going to saute this off a bit. In a minute or so, the sausage is now done cooking. Because don't forget, it's still going to cook in the oven. So we're just going to give it a stir or two, and then the sausage is done sauteing. Now with our sausage cooked, just shut off the burner and just let it rest there. Do not drain out the juices, unless you would like to. Now next here, we're just going to dice up or chop up some celery, because celery is excellent in stuffing. Adds a nice crunch and texture. So now we're just going to start just dicing this all up. A lot of times I bang it like this, but you don't have to. And it separates the two sides kind of. But then again, I just decided to use a knife. And a lot of times I don't use a potato peeler on celery. I just get the wide end, the wide white end, and I just break it and I pull down and it pulls off the strings with it most of the time. And now we're just going to dice these up. And that's pretty much it. So we all have an idea exactly how to do this. And for the amount of stuffing that I made, I used about 3 stalks of celery. Now we're going to get a large bowl and we're going to start putting all of our stuffing together. But now what I also did was that with the chopped celery, I added that right to the pan with the sausage in it. And I keep the oils in mind because I like the flavor of it in the stuffing. So now we're just going to put this all in a large bowl. Just like that. Juices and all. I like my stuffing with some moisture to it. I don't like a dry stuffing. So now we're going to add our stuffing mix to it. And this is basically just the bread and all crumbled up and stuff with a little bit of seasoning. And again, I did make a stuffing way too large for just the 2 of us. You know, I have to keep remembering that our family's not as big as it once was. So we're just going to keep blending this, stirring it up. Make sure it's well blended. And now I'm adding the remaining stuffing mix. And again, we're going to give it a nice stir. It's starting to look a little bit like a stuffing. Now in goes a good amount of grated Parmesan cheese. I'm not done. I just have to open up a new jar. If you guys watch my past videos, I cook with Parmesan cheese a lot. As we see right here. And now we're going to start adding our olives. And again, for the green pimento olives, I buy these already pre-sliced. It just makes it a lot easier. And the black olives are soft, so we could, and of course they're pitless, so we could just squeeze those with our fingers and they break apart. So now we're going to be adding the black olives now to this and just do it like that. It really gives the stuffing a nice flavor, a nice texture. It's a real good marriage. I don't have a lot of black olives on hand, but there's enough. And then as we know, our eyes have a lot to do with eating too, because if something looks good, it usually is. So the black and the green olives really give a nice color to this dish. And this is where I decided to use the whole bag of stuffing mix. Now we're going to start adding some garlic and onion powder to this. Even though we added onions and garlic to the sausage, we also want to add it to the breading to give it that nice flavor. Sorry for the angle of the camera during this. I know we can't see it too well, but I'm trying to explain it the best I can. So now in goes the Italian seasoning. And then next we're going to add some Old Bay seasoning to this. This seasoning is excellent. It's one of the first season mixes that ever came out, which is notorious for seafood, but it's excellent with meats, almost anything. So we're going to give it a good dash of that. It really gives it an earthy flavor. And now, earlier I said butter. This is actually an egg. What the egg's going to do is that it's going to give you a more firm stuffing. So once it's cooked, it's going to be the consistency almost like brownies. It really sticks together this way. If you like a more fluffy stuffing, then don't use the egg. So again, the egg is just going to give you a tighter stuffing. And now we're going to blend this well, as we see right here. And in my opinion, there's no tools better than the hands. So let's just get in there with our hands and give it a real good blend. Really mix that around really, really well. Feel free to add what you like. If you like walnuts, put some walnuts in it. If you like even water chestnuts. Some people like water chestnuts in their stuffing. You got to go by what you like and what your company likes that's coming over for the holidays. But the boss is always the cook. Now, I know people like cornbread stuffing too, so if you like cornbread stuffing, add cornbread instead of the breading to your stuffing. Now, next we're going to add some chicken broth. And we're just going to add some chicken broth. And I want to get this to the consistency of like when you're making like a meatloaf or meatballs. Where if you put your hand in there and you make like a ball out of it, it's going to stick together. And now in a coffee cup, I melted some butter. And we're going to pour that over and mix that in with the stuffing now. It just adds a nice flavor to it. And now we're going to give it a nice stir, blend it all together. And then I'll probably eventually get in there with my hands again once it cools down a bit from the hot butter. Just as we see here. And see how it's starting to look a little cakey? That's what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to pick up some, we're going to form a ball out of it, and we're going to see it stick it together perfectly. So that's the consistency right there that I want. Now I got my baking pan here that I'm going to use, and this is a 9x13. And we're going to spray it with some cooking spray. Now this pan's been in my family for years, as you can tell by looking at it. And I still love this pan. Wire racks fit in it perfectly. But of course, because this is a stuffing, we won't be using a wire rack today. Now we're going to get our stuffing and start putting it inside the pan just like that. And then next we're going to start pushing down on the stuffing, flatten it a bit, and form it to the base of the pan. Now, if you still like to stuff your turkey with the stuffing, you could do that instead of using the pan. But I advise not packing it too tight inside of the bird because you want the air to circulate so it cooks evenly. So now with my hand, I'm just going to get in there and just finalize it. Make sure it's all even, looks good. And the sad thing is, guys, this is probably the last image we're actually going to have of the stuffing. But let me tell you something, trust me, this thing came out primo. Now we need some aluminum foil. We're going to cover this pretty tightly. You want most of the moisture to stay in the stuffing while it's baking. And that's pretty much it right there. Now we stick it in the oven. Now I'm going to go over the oven temperatures that I cook mine at. Now, when you're cooking this, okay, now this is going to depend a lot on the temperature that you cook your turkey at. So if you're making a turkey along with this stuffing, I cook my turkey still the old school way. I like to cook mine on a low temperature for a longer time. So I cook my turkey on about 330. So if my stuffing's in the oven at the same time as my turkey, it's going to take about an hour and a half at 330 degrees. Now, if you're cooking it separately in the oven, you could put it up to like 350, and then you could cook it for less time, about an hour, I would say. Then what you want to do is remove the aluminum foil and let it brown a bit. Once it reaches the desired temperature and color, then you're ready to serve. And I would still love to know whatever happened to my final image of this being all nice and golden brown, but let's just imagine that it is, and there's our final stuffing, guys. Again, I'm sorry for not showing you the final picture. So there's my take on my holiday stuffing. I also make this in between holidays too, sometimes if I'm just in the mood for it, to have it with some chicken or something like that. It's a fantastic stuffing. I think you and your family will really enjoy this. So again, thanks for watching the OceanState Cuisine. Feel free to sub up for more delicious videos coming your way and comment down below, because as always, we love to hear from you. And until the next time, you guys have yourself a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.